People like to believe families fall apart behind closed doors, in whispered arguments or late-night phone calls. But mine didn't. Mine unraveled at a candlelit rehearsal dinner, surrounded by smiling guests, polished silverware, and raised glasses. My mother stood up halfway through dessert. She lifted her wine glass with practiced grace, smiled in my direction, and said, "We've decided that the cottage Evan's parents gifted Lucy will be passed on to her sister." The room didn't explode. It froze. Chairs stopped scraping. Forks hovered midair. Someone laughed nervously, unsure if this was a joke. My sister leaned back in her chair, already amused, already comfortable. "Oh, relax," she said lightly. "It's just a cottage." Like she's doing me some huge favor. That was the moment I realized something was wrong, not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. My fiancé didn't laugh. He didn't look confused. He looked at my sister with an expression I had never seen before, sharp, focused, and alert. "My name is Lucy, and I grew up in a family where love was measured by how much you could give without asking for anything back." From the outside, we looked perfect. Holiday photos lined the mantel. Matching outfits. My mother, Evelyn, always smiling, always telling people how close we were. But inside, there were rules, unspoken, unquestioned. Chloe shines. Lucy manages. I was the child who learned early how to shrink. When we were young, Chloe wanted the bigger bedroom because her friends might come over. My parents agreed instantly. I helped her move in while I took the smaller room with the humming vent and the view of the fence. They called me mature. Responsible. Strong. Words that really meant, you won't resist. That pattern didn't fade with age. It sharpened. Chloe drifted from job to job, relationship to relationship, always confident someone would catch her. And someone always did. Usually me. I covered bills. Loaned money. Absorbed apologies that never turned into change. Then I met Evan. He didn't see me as the reliable buffer. He saw me as a person. When his parents gifted us a small white cottage as a wedding present, it felt like the first thing in my life that was simply mine, a foundation I hadn't had to sacrifice myself to earn. And maybe that's why my mother couldn't stand it. In the weeks before the dinner, she kept asking questions. Who would have access? Would it stay in the family? Could Chloe stay there temporarily? I ignored the unease. I wanted peace. But as my mother stood there, smiling with that familiar warmth that hid something colder beneath, I realized peace had never been her goal. And the sentence she had just spoken wasn't the end of the story. It was the opening move. Because what I didn't know yet was that the entire night had been planned, and I was never meant to say no. Before we continue the story, please tell me in the comments what your name is and where you are listening from, and please like the video and subscribe to the channel for such amazing content. From the moment I stepped into the ballroom, the air felt off, too bright, too loud, like a stage set just before the curtain lifts. Chloe was already holding court at the center table, laughing a little too loudly, touching her chest dramatically as she explained how chaotic her life had been lately. People leaned in, sympathetic. She was good at this. Fragile but charming. Lost but deserving. I sat beside Evan, and as soon as I did, Chloe's eyes flicked toward me. Quick. Calculating. Rough day? She asked sweetly. I'm fine, I replied. Her smile widened. You will be. Before I could ask what she meant, my mother appeared, resting a manicured hand on Chloe's shoulder like a proud director admiring her lead actress. Everything is going to work out beautifully, she said loudly enough for others to hear. That was when it clicked. I didn't know the script, but they did. Throughout dinner, the hints stacked neatly. My mother praised Evan's parents for their generosity to the whole family. Chloe repeated how she just needed a stable place to reset. Guests nodded. Murmurs spread. I wasn't being consulted. I was being positioned. My father avoided my eyes, waiting for cues like he always did. Evan's parents exchanged puzzled glances. Evan stayed close, grounding me with small touches, silent reassurance. Then dessert arrived. My mother stood, tapped her glass, and smiled, the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. Before she spoke, I saw it. Chloe leaned back and smirked. Not nervous. Not grateful. Victorious. The announcement landed. Applause followed. And then Chloe laughed. Relax, she said. It's just a cottage. Just a cottage. As if the first place I'd ever felt safe was a spare item on a shelf. The humiliation burned, but beneath it was something deeper. Something old. This wasn't thoughtlessness. This was entitlement. And for the first time in my life, I felt something crack. Because moments later, away from the table, I would discover proof that this wasn't an accident, it was a setup. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't cry. I did what I'd always done. I went quiet. Evan leaned toward me. Lucy, look at me, he whispered. You don't owe them silence. You owe yourself clarity. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway, pressing my hands against the wall as my breathing steadied. Evan joined me, waiting without touching, letting me choose. Then my phone buzzed. Normally, I would have ignored it. But instinct made me look. It was a group chat preview. One I barely remembered being added to months ago. The message read. Make sure she feels guilty tonight. My stomach dropped. I opened the thread. What I saw wasn't emotional, it was logistical. Instructions. Timing. Tone. When Chloe should laugh. When she should appear overwhelmed. How to frame the cottage as a shared family asset. And one sentence, colder than the rest. Lucy won't refuse in public. She never does. Evan saw the screen. His jaw tightened. So this wasn't careless, he said. It was deliberate. For a long moment, I just stood there. Then something inside me settled, not into fear, but resolve. They thought I was still that girl. By the time we walked back toward the ballroom, I wasn't walking into a trap. I was walking toward truth. Because what happened when I returned to that table would permanently change my family, and expose everything they thought I'd protect. The room quieted when we returned. My mother was mid-sentence, still glowing in the aftermath of her announcement. Chloe sat beside her, eyes glassy with rehearsed gratitude. Lucy, honey, my mother said. Are you all right? Your sister is just so overwhelmed. I placed my phone on the table. Not hidden. Not dramatic. Just present. Chloe leaned forward. This cottage will change everything for me, she said softly. I don't know what I'd do without you. Evan stood. Actually, he said calmly, we need to clarify something. My mother stiffened. There's nothing to clarify. There is, he replied. A lot. I lifted my chin. The cottage isn't available. Chloe blinked. What? It was never offered, I said. And it can't be given. My mother's smile collapsed. Don't embarrass yourself. By who? I asked. You? I slid the phone forward. Before anyone could speak, I said, you might want to understand the trust agreement first. The room shifted. And that was when the truth finally stepped into the light. Because the next words I spoke didn't just stop the transfer, they shattered the illusion my mother had spent decades building. The room felt suspended, like everyone was holding their breath at once. My mother stared at my phone as if it were a foreign object. What agreement, she said sharply. You're making things up. I'm not, I replied. I read it. Evan's parents placed the cottage under a protected trust. It can't be loaned, transferred, or shared with anyone outside our marriage. Mrs. Hale's brows lifted slightly. Mr. Hale folded his napkin with deliberate calm. We were very clear about that, he said. The property is meant to support Lucy and Evan's future. No one else. Murmurs rippled across the table. My father finally spoke, irritation creeping into his voice. Why would you put restrictions on a gift? To prevent misuse, Mr. Hale replied evenly. The words landed with precision. My mother's composure faltered, just for a moment. This is ridiculous, she snapped. Lucy is overreacting. Chloe inhaled sharply, summoning tears. I can't believe you'd humiliate me like this, she whispered. In front of everyone. You humiliated yourself, I said quietly. The moment you agreed to this. Her expression slipped. Just for a second. My mother's eyes snapped toward her. Agreed to what? I tapped my phone. To the plan. I opened the messages. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was stunned. I read aloud. Make sure she feels guilty tonight. Cry if needed. She won't refuse in public. Frame it as a family decision. Each sentence dropped like a weight. Chloe's tears vanished. Color drained from her face. Stop, she hissed. That's out of context. Do you want me to keep reading? I asked. She didn't answer. My mother lunged for control. You violated our privacy. You sent them to me, I said calmly. You forgot to remove me from the thread. A few guests gasped. Someone laughed in disbelief. Mr. Hale stood. Evelyn, this was deceitful. You attempted to coerce your daughter into surrendering something that was never yours. I was trying to help Chloe, my mother said, voice cracking. She needs stability. So does Lucy, Mrs. Hale said gently. And she doesn't manipulate people to get it. That was the moment I stopped feeling small. Because what my mother said next revealed exactly how she'd always seen me, and why I could never go back. My mother's hands trembled as she grasped the edge of the table. After everything I've done for you, she hissed, this is how you repay me? By turning on your own family? I didn't turn on you, I said. I stopped protecting you. Her breath hitched. I gave you life. And you taught me, I replied softly, that love was something I had to earn by sacrificing myself. The words hung there. My father stared at his plate. Chloe said nothing. You're ungrateful, my mother spat. You always were. No, I said. I was conditioned. Evan's hand found mine. Lucy doesn't owe you anything, he said firmly. My mother looked around the table, searching for allies. There were none. Guests began standing, not dramatically, not angrily, just quietly. Coats gathered. Chairs slid back. Judgment didn't shout. It withdrew. This isn't over, my mother whispered. It is, Evan said. The cottage was never yours. And it never will be. Something in my mother finally broke. Not loudly. Just completely. For the first time in my life, I didn't comfort her. I stood. Evan stood beside me. And we walked away. But the real transformation didn't happen that night, it happened the morning after, when I chose myself for the first time. The house was quiet the next morning. Not tense. Not heavy. Just still. Sunlight streamed through the windows as I held a mug Evan had made for me. It tasted different, cleaner. At 10 o'clock, the locksmith arrived. I watched the old keys fall into my hand. Objects that once symbolized obligation. I let them go. 6 months later, we painted the cottage walls together. As the color dried, I understood something I wish I'd learned sooner. It wasn't the cottage that changed my life. It was choosing who was allowed inside. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect. Walking away wasn't betrayal. It was survival. Choosing myself didn't destroy my family. It revealed the truth about it. And for the first time in my life, that truth felt like freedom.